and her friend, whose name escapes me at this moment, who did the music. They were amazing and blessed by her. And give a warm welcome to Tiffany Eckhardt of Flown the Coop. She's got a little store in Burton, and she's really nervous, so smile while you're listening so she doesn't feel so nervous.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Eckhardt. I'm the owner of Flown the Coop in Burton, just 9 miles down the road. Flown the Coop is an antique store, and we specialize in industrial, vintage, and homestead goods. But I also love to feature local products like Lazy Bee Honey, I know Christy's here, and my entrepreneurial friends. I like to say my work is dedicated to those who can't be caged. I hope that I can inspire kindred spirits to go after their dreams, regardless of what the directions others have taken. I'm so honored to be asked to speak. It's humbling to stand before so many rock stars in this business. There are so many stories I could share. I have Forrest Gumped my way through life, and it's true. Life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. If I'm brutally honest, I struggle with the fear that I don't have what it takes to succeed. I don't have a college degree, I didn't come from money, and I often feel like the underdog. But God has given me a stout heart that perseveres, and the truth is, I only become defeated when I compare my journey with others and allow my limitations to define who I should be. It has taken me a long time to figure out what God had in mind for me. I'm very determined, and I usually choose the road that's uphill both ways. I'm not afraid to try anything, and I'm more determined when you tell me it can't be done. Although the older I get, the more I'm learning to lean into God for direction. In hindsight, I can see all the times He used my failures and the way I thought the deck was stacked against me. If you get anything out of the stories I share, I hope it's that if I can do it, you can do it too. I was born in a beautiful suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and grew up in a wonderful old house. I am the child of two very hardworking parents, Rob and Rose Landon, who instilled in my sister Gretchen and I, oh God, I'm going to cry, the importance of working hard for what you want. My dad is a retired fireman, and my mom drove school bus when we were in school. My dad influenced my suspicion of the man and my need to question the way things have to be. My grandpa, his dad, owned his own insurance company back in the day when the industry was just developing, and I believe I get my entrepreneurial spirit from him. One of my earliest memories is standing in the kitchen watching my mom cook dinner and telling her I'm going to own my own business someday, just like my grandpa. We were a frugal family. I grew up shopping thrift stores, and I loved to go garage sailing with my grandparents, who went religiously every Friday morning. And I learned to negotiate watching my grandma ask for a better price, even when it's cheap enough. After graduating high school, I did not choose the college path, and instead I enlisted in the Air Force as a reservist. I was hoping for a new adventure, and it was in tech school that I met my future husband, Jeff Eckhardt. We lived in the same dorm, and we became best friends. And after tech school, I went back to Ohio, and he went on to Florida, but we stayed in touch and visited each other, and eventually I moved to Florida, and we got married in 1989. After Florida, we got stationed in Columbus, Mississippi at Columbus Air Force Base, and this is where we started our family. We have 2 children, Emily and Hayden, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom. Being a mom was the best job ever. I knew I'd do this. After 9 years in Mississippi, we moved our family back to my hometown of Westerville, Ohio. And while the kids were in elementary school, I took over my parents' drive-through coffee shop called Rosie's Java Hut. And this is where I learned the importance of great customer service. All my customers loved that I had their drink ready for them when they pulled up to the window, and all of them thought I did it just for them. Moving our family to Urbana, Ohio is a perfect example of my willingness to go for it. Jeff was working for a traveling CAT scan company, and the kids and I would follow him around. And I'll never forget the day we went to Urbana, Ohio, and we drove down Scioto Street for the first time. I fell madly in love with these huge historic homes. And I remember telling the kids, I would love to live here someday. Well, that day I found a house that was up for silent auction, and I drugged Jeff there during his lunch, and we decided to put a bid on it. And the next day we got a call that we won the bid. And within a matter of weeks, we were moving our family an hour west of Westerville to Urbana into our fourth large historic renovation. The kids knew what they were getting into this time, and they were not thrilled. So to make light of the situation, I read to them on to Oregon every night by the campfire before we went to bed in our pop-up camper in the backyard. Later, when the kids were in high school, I became a realtor, which I love that job, and any realtors out there can tell you it's one of the hardest jobs. But I loved showing off the historic homes until 2008, when the housing market came crashing down on us in Ohio. And it was clear that I couldn't afford to market these homes that really just didn't have a chance to sell. So I did the only logical thing. I sold my car and went to Costa Rica for a month to find myself. And it was a great experience. I stayed with the host family and I went to language school, but I didn't find myself. I'm not sure what I expected, but I was glad to get home to my family to figure out what the next step would be. Funny story, when I got back from Costa Rica, a friend of mine in real estate called. He had gone to work as a sales manager for a local manufacturing company. And he said, you need to apply for this inside sales job. And so I did, and I went to the interview. And during the interview, I thought, I'm a shoo-in for this job. I mean, Wes knows me. He knows my work ethic. And we had had conversations about sales in the past. It's really hard to teach sales. You either have it or you don't. And so I got called back for a second interview. And I was so annoyed, because what else could they ask me? You know, I just didn't understand. So on the way out the door, I turned to my husband and I said, Jeff, you know, I'm not corporate. I don't know what to expect. Do you have any advice for me? And without hesitation, he looked at me and he said, all I can think of is this is your one chance, Fancy. Don't let me down. I may not have had a job, but I was never idle. I was always trying a variety of different things to find my muse. I had a blog, and I was learning to promote businesses using social media. And I formed a group called Weekend Retweet. And this was a bunch of ladies that met on Twitter and then later at Tweetups. And we used our various social media platforms to collectively promote bed and breakfasts. And so a bed and breakfast would invite us in, and in exchange we would use our guerrilla marketing for them. And this was really fueling my need to travel and my love for marketing. I also had become friends with a Brenham native, Christy Herlong, and she had moved to Urbana to open up a cute little shop called the Green Owl. And we had this bright idea of putting our stuff together to do the Springfield Flea Market in the month of July. She was really good at merchandising, and we were both very enthusiastic. And while we were having a blast, all the dealers were complaining about the month of July, that it was slow and there was no sales. But Christy and I thought we were making a killing. And so that hooked us into this crazy business. And we named our business Flown the Coop, mainly because we just both wanted to get out of the house to junk. We did Round Top once together, and we set up at the Antique Depot, which is now the Stone Cellar. And little did I know back then that I would be living in this area. So Jeff and I had been married 20 years when he shared with me his dream to move to Texas. And our kids had graduated high school, and he said it was his turn to live near family. And I hate to admit it, but I was devastated. I just couldn't imagine leaving my kids or my family and friends. And I feared leaving behind my projects and starting completely over. But Jeff moved to Texas, and I finally joined him months later, and I took Flown the Coop with me. Flown the Coop had taken on a new meaning for me now. Most families send their kids off into the world, but Jeff and I flew off and left the house to the kids. this was really hard for me because I'm a small town girl and we moved to Houston, the fourth largest city in the United States, so I'm told. But I finally found my groove. I was doing Canton once a month and Round Top twice a year. And we eventually found a cute little house in the Heights to rent, which felt like home. And I rented a booth space at Chippendale East Lake Antiques. And after I rented the booth space, I quit Canton and just took care of my booth and did Round Top. One of the best things that happened to me during this period was befriending Brian and Melanie Russell, owners of the Seed Box. They are rock stars in my eyes. And I helped them with Urban Market and the Dallas Gift Market, and I learned so much about merchandising and ways to look at this business through them. And they encouraged me to do Urban Market and the Dallas Gift Market. So I quit doing my booth and just did shows every year. And I was so proud to be doing 7 shows a year. And I was learning more about what worked for my booth and getting better at merchandising. But honestly, I was not happy because Jeff couldn't do this business with me. He has a real job that he loves, and I haven't figured out how to be a sugar mama yet. So we began dreaming of a place where we could live in and work at. And I had specific ideas of what I wanted life to be like. I wanted to walk to live music, and I wanted to be in a creative community. So during the show, the fall show in 2014, after we had unloaded my truck and trailer and set up my booth, and Jeff went back to Houston, I had a talk with God because I couldn't do this anymore. And I was really frustrated and discouraged. And during that show, Melanie came to our booth one morning and said, did you know Old Glory was selling their little property in Burton? And I remember my eyes getting huge and telling her I have to have it. Because I've been to the property several times. I knew the last 2 owners. And I'll never forget visiting Linda and Ludmille Marco for the first time. And I just thought it was the dreamiest property ever. So I called Jeff with the good news and expected him to say, have you lost your mind? And no, we can't afford this right now. But instead he said, let's make an offer. So immediately I called Brian of Old Glory and told him, hey, Jeff and I are going to put an offer on your property. This was on Friday, and we agreed to meet on Monday. And that was the longest weekend of my whole entire life. Because I knew that if this didn't work out, I'd be at square one trying to figure out what to do with my life. Jeff and I went over to the property on Saturday evening just to walk around, and there was a double rainbow over Burton, and I knew it was a sign from God. So I called my daughter Emily, who knows me well, and she said, Mom, you know it's going to work out. You didn't have a chance to think about it. We signed the papers to close the deal at the end of November in 2014. This is the first home that Jeff and I bought that didn't need a major renovation. It's the obvious choice for me. It's off the beaten path, and there is so much scope for the imagination. Thank God for social media, because I'm convinced nobody would know I existed if it weren't for friends sharing on their social networks my store. And I could never do this business without the constant support of my husband, Jeff. He's been making my dreams come true for 27 years. My mom likes to say, go with the flow and you're sure to grow. I think my stories illustrate the importance of going with the flow. Work hard, show up, never give up, and always talk about what you want. I'm a dreamer, but I also believe you have to keep trying until the perfect solution presents itself. I talk to God a lot about this. Jeremiah 29:11 is my favorite verse. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. After the crash in 2008, I was convinced that God was not on my side and that he didn't have my back. But he knew what I needed, and he recaptured my heart in the process of pursuing this dream. I couldn't be happier developing my little piece of heaven, and I'm so thankful that my journey led me to Texas, and especially this area. I love being involved in Burton and watching this secret town develop into this creative haven with several new businesses opening this month, one being the Burton Roadhouse, where I can walk to hear live music. So I leave you with the words of Steven Tyler. Oh, I wish I could sing this to you, but I can't. I know nobody knows where it comes or where it goes. I know it's everybody's sin. You've got to lose to know how to win. So dream on. Dream until your dreams come true.